Shortly after the Great Disappointment of October 22, 1844, a young 17-year-old woman received her first vision. That was the beginning of what would become a lifelong calling to be a messenger of God to His people. Throughout her ministry, Ellen White wrote of the life of Christ and shared what it meant to be a Christian. In 1863, she received a vision that outlined important health principles. This included the giving up of flesh meat, tea, coffee, alcohol, tobacco, and all harmful substances. It also led to the formation of a health system that has become one of the largest not-for-profit health systems in the world. From as early as 1872, Ellen White advocated the importance of establishing an educational system where our young people could learn without compromising their faith. From that time, the church has developed one of the largest church-run school systems in the world.
Isabel, in our previous episodes, we have seen how Satan has gradually introduced false doctrine, apostasy, and spiritualism into the church.
Yes. You know, when you look at the big picture and see how far we have backslidden, it's really very disheartening. We're no different from ancient Israel. No wonder Ellen White speaks of those who will sigh and cry for the abominations done in the church. But you know, this shouldn't surprise us because Revelation 12:17 warns us that Satan is wroth with the church and is making war with it.
You know, speaking of sighing and crying, have you noticed that the current push for revival and reformation says nothing about this? There is very little or no mention of the things we have documented. How can they have revival and reformation without addressing these issues?
Well, they can't. And because it has become so widespread, only God can bring about a change.
Yes, it has become widespread. Standards have dropped, our schools have been compromised, and even our health institutions have been infiltrated by New Age philosophies.
Then we should look into this and document these things.
That sounds good to me. How about I look at our educational system?
Okay, I'll take a look at our health system, and perhaps we can both finish by maybe looking at standards. In 1863, Ellen White received a vision at Otsego, Michigan, with detailed information that would lead the fledgling church into health reform. 3 years later, on September 5, 1866, the church's first sanitarium was built in Battle Creek, Michigan, and named Western Health Reform Institute. The sanitarium started out small, but would eventually become a world-class hospital where even presidents would come for treatment. The institute treated 106 patients in 1866 and 7,006 in the year 1906. By 1876, John Harvey Kellogg became the superintendent. 2 years later, a new building was built to cater to the increased number of patients. From the beginning, the health work used natural methods like hydrotherapy to treat people. This was based on Bible and spirit of prophecy teachings. Patients' physical needs were met, but the health work was also a means of reaching people spiritually. Kellogg's success quickly became known throughout the nation. His influence in Battle Creek, where the heart of the work was situated, became immense. Ellen White saw this danger and made the following comment in 1902. "I'm writing on the life of Solomon, and I wish to write more on the case that I have so many times brought before Dr. Kellogg as illustrative of his own dangers, the case of Nebuchadnezzar. Over and over again I have warned the doctor not to follow the course of this king who said, 'Is not this great Babylon that I have built by the might of my power and for the honor of my majesty?' Dr. Kellogg is now pursuing a similar course in Battle Creek." However, Kellogg did not heed Ellen White's repeated warnings. By the late 1800s, he had accepted the teachings of pantheism, and by his influence began teaching it in Adventism. Many of those working at the Battle Creek Sanitarium were influenced by his subtle arguments. This brought about a crisis in the church. On Tuesday, February 18, 1902, the Battle Creek Sanitarium was burned to the ground. This was no accident. In the same manuscript, Ellen White continues, "I am told that he made the remark that he was glad that the old sanitarium buildings burned down. Brethren, those buildings burned down as a reproof to him, but instead of taking it thus, he has given place to self-exaltation." Over the next few years, the pantheism crisis was met, but many people were deeply affected by it. Today, the Seventh-day Adventist Church runs one of the most comprehensive health systems in the world. But is it being run according to God's standards? When God called the Israelites out of Egypt, He provided them with a set of health laws to ensure they would remain healthy. Likewise, when the Seventh-day Adventist Church was formed through God's guidance, He provided even more detailed health laws to ensure that His people would remain healthy in this degenerate and sinful age. Part of this counsel included the giving up of eating meat. In the book Counsels on Diet and Foods, we read, "Not an ounce of flesh meat should enter our stomachs. The eating of flesh is unnatural. We are to return to God's original purpose in the creation of man. And those who use flesh meat disregard all the warnings that God has given concerning this question. They have no evidence that they are walking in safe paths. They have not the slightest excuse for eating the flesh of dead animals." Meat eating is a serious issue. Seventh-day Adventists have clear counsel regarding this. When they fail to heed it, they show they're not walking in safe paths. So, how do Seventh-day Adventists fare concerning this counsel? According to the latest Adventist health study of 96,000 Adventists from North America, 10% are pesco-vegetarian who eat fish regularly. 6% are semi-vegetarian who consume red meat and fish less than once per week, and 48% are non-vegetarian. This means 64% of Adventists in North America consume meat and are not following God's counsel. No wonder the church is in the condition it is. What is really sad is that according to this next quote from Councils on Diet and Foods, page 382, many of these people will give up the truth. Greater reform should be seen among the people who claim to be looking for the soon appearing of Christ. Health reform is to do among our people a work which it has not yet done. There are those who ought to be awake to the danger of meat eating who are still eating the flesh of animals, thus endangering the physical, mental, and spiritual health. Many who are now only half converted on the question of meat eating will go from God's people to walk no more with them. That is a serious warning we all need to heed. Could eating meat really lead to giving up the truth? Listen as Ellen White continues. It has been clearly presented to me that God's people are to take a firm stand against meat eating. Would God for 30 years give his people the message that if they desire to have pure blood and clear minds, they must give up the use of flesh meat if he did not want them to heed the message? By the use of flesh meats, the animal nature is strengthened and the spiritual nature weakened. And the sickness that has visited many families in Battle Creek need not have been if they had followed the light God has given them. Like ancient Israel, they have disregarded the light and could see no more necessity of restricting their appetite than did ancient Israel. The children of Israel would have flesh meat and said, as many now say, "We shall die without meat." God gave rebellious Israel flesh, but his curse was with it. Thousands of them died while the meat they desired was between their teeth. We have the example of ancient Israel and the warning for us not to do as they did. Their history of unbelief and rebellion is left on record as a special warning that we should not follow their example of murmuring at God's requirements. How can we pass on so indifferently, choosing our own course, following the sight of our own eyes, and departing farther and farther from God as did the Hebrews? God cannot do great things for his people because of their hardness of heart and sinful unbelief. Israel's history reveals just what happens when we disobey God's clear instructions. All the adults, except for Joshua and Caleb, died in the wilderness because of their disobedience and desire for the flesh pots of Egypt. It's not just in meat eating that Adventists are disregarding God's counsel. Ellen White also warned against consuming tea and coffee. In Counsels on Diet and Food, she wrote, "Tea and coffee drinking is a sin, an injurious indulgence which, like other evils, injures the soul." How many Seventh-day Adventists continue to consume tea or coffee? An Adventist health study which began in 1974 and finished in 1988 included approximately 34,000 California Adventists over 25 years of age. In it, 35% admitted to coffee use. No doubt the statistics are far worse 25 years later because many Adventist churches now serve caffeinated beverages in their lobbies and fellowship halls. Another area where God's counsel has been ignored is the consumption of alcohol. Solomon wrote in Proverbs 20 verse 1, "Wine is a mocker, strong drink is raging, and whosoever is deceived thereby is not wise." Through the spirit of prophecy, God has given even clearer warning against the use of alcohol. Tea, coffee, tobacco, beer, wine, and all spirituous liquors are not to be taken moderately but discarded. Is alcohol consumption a problem in the Seventh-day Adventist Church? According to L.A. Sensiman in the August 1980 issue of Ministry Magazine, it is. The Adventist doctor who has related his experience in connection with this article raises some painful questions for us as fellow Seventh-day Adventists. Often in the past, we have not been willing even to admit that we have an alcoholic problem in our church. We wish we didn't, but we do,
and in ever-increasing numbers. It is time for us as Seventh-day Adventists to recognize that we too have a problem among us with alcohol. In too many Adventist homes, alcohol is being served not only at parties, but as a refreshment at the dinner table. Wet bars can be seen in some Adventist homes. Nor should we think that only professional people are involved in the problem. That was back in 1980. 26 years later, Dr. Peter Landless from the General Conference Health Ministries Department wrote in the January 12, 2006 edition of the Adventist Review, "Within our own church membership and educational institutions, alcohol drinking is present. Some surveys show that up to a third of students have experimented with alcohol and approximately half remain regular drinkers." Obviously, this issue is not going away, and the problem is not caused by a lack of knowledge. Most Seventh-day Adventists know what the Bible and Spirit of Prophecy say. At the heart of the problem is the lack of true conversion in the church. Those who love God with all their hearts will follow His counsel. They will give up everything that is harmful to their bodies. It's not just church members who are neglecting the health message. The entire Adventist health system has failed to follow God's counsel. When our health institutes first began, flesh food was served to patients who thought they could not do without meat. In some cases, the diet was largely composed of meat. However, Ellen White counseled this was not according to God's order. In 1884, she wrote, "You're all acquainted with the light upon the subject of health reform, but when I visit the retreat, I see that there is a very marked departure from health reform on the matter of meat eating, and I'm convinced that there must be a change, and at once. Your diet is largely composed of meat. God is not leading in this direction. The enemy is seeking to establish the diet question upon a wrong basis by leading those in charge of the institution to accommodate the diet to the appetite of the patients." Then she said, "I cannot admit that we are moving in God's order. We must have a different order of things or give up the name health retreat, for it is wholly inappropriate. The Lord has shown me that the Health Institute must not be molded to meet the appetite or any person's ideas. I am aware that the excuse for the meat eating allowed in the institution has been that the pleasure seekers who come are not pleased with any other diet. Then let them go where they can obtain the diet they wish. When the institution cannot be conducted, even for guests, according to right principles, then let it drop the name it has assumed." At that time, Ellen White understood that health reform was progressive and did not counsel eliminating all flesh food from our health institutions. However, she did note that, "You may ask, would you do away entirely with meat eating? I answer, it will eventually come to this, but we're not prepared for this step just now. Meat eating will eventually be done away. When meat is not used as it has been, you will learn a more correct way of cooking and will be able to supply the place of meat with something else. The principal objection with physicians and helpers at the health retreat to discarding a meat diet is that they want meat and then plead they must have meat. Therefore, they encourage its use. But God does not want those who come to the health retreat educated to live on a flesh diet. By parlor talks and by example, educate in the other direction. This will call for great skill in the preparation of wholesome food. More labor will be required, but nevertheless, it must gradually be done. Use less meat. Let those who do the cooking and those who bear the responsibility educate their own tastes and habits of eating in accordance with the laws of health. By 1898, the Battle Creek Sanitarium eliminated flesh food from its meals, and in 1903, the St. Helena Sanitarium in California also took this step. This decision took a lot of courage by those responsible for running these health institutes. Would they risk losing patients by obeying God? Yes. In describing what happened at St. Helena, Ellen White wrote in 1903, "Lately, the number of patients at the sanitarium has decreased owing to an array of circumstances that could not be helped. One reason for the lack of patronage is, I think, the stand that those at the head of the institution have taken against serving flesh meat to the patients. Ever since the opening of the sanitarium, meat has been served in the dining room. We felt that the time had come to take a decided stand against this practice. We knew that it was not pleasing to God for flesh meat to be placed before the patients. Now, no tea, coffee, or flesh meat is served in the institution. We are determined to live out the principles of health reform, to walk in the way of truth and righteousness. We shall not, for fear of losing patronage, be half and half reformers. We have taken our position, and by God's help, we shall stand by it." Originally, our health institutes were called to be places where people could be given a chance to learn the three angels' messages. While in our care, they were to be shown that obeying the laws of health is just as important as obeying the 10 Commandments, including the Sabbath commandment. In 1905, Ellen White wrote, "40 years ago, the Lord began to give us instruction in regard to the establishment of sanitariums as one of His chosen ways for proclaiming the third angel's message. Men and women bring disease upon themselves by transgressing the laws of God. The laws of nature, as truly as the precepts of the Decalogue, are divine, and only in obedience to them can health be recovered or preserved. Our sanitariums are to be schools in which people of all classes shall be taught the way of salvation. In them, the sick are to be taught to overcome the appetite for tea, coffee, flesh meat, tobacco, and intoxicating liquor of all kinds." Church and health leaders realized that providing meat, tea, and coffee contradicted this message. This is why they eventually eliminated these from our health institutes. But how do our hospitals fare today? Do they still take the courageous stand that our sanitarium pioneers did? Many Adventist hospitals now serve tea, coffee, and meat to their patients and guests. As you can see from this menu, the Florida SDA Hospital offers meat in their cafeteria. According to the Adventist Health website, most of their hospitals feel it is not their purpose to impose a vegetarian diet on patients. Instead, they provide everything the patient wants to create a comfortable, healing environment for those they serve. By serving meat, tea, and coffee to their patients, how are they creating a healing environment? These substances damage the body both physically and spiritually. What kind of witness is this? Remember, part of the purpose for building sanitariums or hospitals was to provide a place where people could be taught the three angels' messages. This is not the purpose anymore. Instead, the focus is making money and being successful. Many of the doctors and nurses employed in our hospitals are not even Seventh-day Adventists. How can these people share the three angels' messages with the sick? Our sanitariums used to be places where people were taught the importance of obeying the laws of health, and they were treated according to those laws. Notice what Ellen White wrote in Counsels on Diet and Foods. There are many ways of practicing the healing art, but there's only one way that heaven approves. God's remedies are the simple agencies of nature that will not tax or debilitate the system through their powerful properties. Drugs are expensive, both in the outlay of means and the effect produced upon the system. Pure air, sunlight, abstemiousness, rest, exercise, proper diet, the use of water, trust in divine power, these are the true remedies. Today, our hospitals do not teach people the laws of health anymore, and they don't use these laws to treat people. The natural remedies that our sanitariums once used are considered quackery. Instead, the focus is on quick fixes by means of drugs and surgery. Consequently, people don't learn that violating the laws of health results in sickness. Now, we're not advocating that our hospitals completely stop using drugs and performing operations. Dr. Kellogg performed operations when needed. Clearly, there is a need for those when the circumstances require it. But when these are wholly relied upon, our hospitals are no longer following the blueprint. In effect, there's not much difference between worldly hospitals and Seventh-day Adventist hospitals. The Battle Creek Sanitarium burned to the ground in 1902 in part because Kellogg was promoting pantheistic ideas. To help finance the rebuilding of the sanitarium, Kellogg tried to publish his book Living Temple through the Review and Herald. God burned that building down as well on December 30th of the same year. Over 100 years have passed, and to a large degree, Seventh-day Adventists have forgotten this history. Today, spiritualism is being brought into some of our hospitals once again. New Age philosophy and practices are being promoted. This includes meditation, yoga, Tai Chi, acupuncture, relaxation and guided imagery, and Qigong. In the last episode, we discovered how New Age or Eastern meditation practices have come into the church. It's no surprise that they have also come into some of our hospitals. In late 2013, the Daily Telegraph reported, health guru Petria King brings cancer program to Sydney Adventist Hospital. It notes, the program, previously only available at the Quest for Life Center in the Southern Highlands, will start on October 16th at the Sydney Adventist Hospital's Cancer Support Center. The article notes, Ms. King is a qualified naturopath, herbalist, homeopath, yoga, and meditation teacher and counselor. She founded the Quest for Life Foundation in 1989. On the Quest for Life website, meditation is described as, in meditation, we unveil the treasure of our human being beyond our human doing. Meditation is like relaxation for the mind. It is very simple. Observe and let go. Not holding on to thoughts or feelings, not adding to them, not resisting them, just observing and letting go. As we quieten the chatter of our minds, we discover an inner wellspring from which intuition, joy, inspiration, imagination, wisdom, and contentment can effortlessly flow. Meditation becomes that sacred space in which we replenish and refresh ourselves. In our last episode, we learned that sacred space is a term used to describe the silence or state one enters during meditation. It is not the first time Ms. King has taught New Age meditation at the Sydney Adventist Hospital. According to the Sydney Meditation Center website, Petrea taught a day of meditation and experiencing the point of stillness in 2009. This point of stillness is the realm of the miraculous, the unexpected, and the often transformational opportunity that stillness provides. In stillness, we hear what is unsaid and see what is invisible. On her Quest for Life website, Petrea provides a document titled Meditation Matters. It gives more information about what she teaches in regard to meditation. In meditation, we literally loosen our attachment to our second nature, our acquired nature, the overlaid patterning of the past, and experience the truth of our consciousness or first nature. Meditation has no particular religious connection, though the mystics of every great religion practice it in some form. Its practice creates the rich possibility for experiencing all that is sacred within and around us. It is the state in which we directly experience our true nature, our essence, our consciousness, our connection to the creative spirit. This sounds very much like pantheism. Now, why would an Adventist hospital allow someone to teach pantheism and Eastern meditation to cancer patients? On the Adventist Healthcare website, meditation is promoted as a safe practice to treat addictive behaviors, stress, anxiety and depression, high blood pressure, and more. It says, Eastern philosophies have recognized the health benefits of meditation for thousands of years. Meditation is now widely practiced in the West, with the belief that it has positive effects on health. Two meditation techniques are most commonly used: concentrative and mindful. Concentrative meditation, such as transcendental meditation known as TM, focuses on a single image, sound, or mantra, words that are spoken or sung in a pattern, or on your own breathing. Mindful meditation, such as mindfulness-based stress reduction, MBSR, does not focus on a single purpose. Rather, you're aware of all thoughts, feelings, sounds, images that pass through your mind. Clearly, Adventist Healthcare is promoting Eastern meditation as a positive practice for health. Another form of meditation is yoga. This is also being promoted in our health institutes. Yoga is a term for physical, mental, and spiritual disciplines that originated in ancient India. It's one of the 6 orthodox schools of Hindu philosophy. Various traditions of yoga are found in Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism. It's promoted as an exercise that can help improve health, but it is steeped in Eastern philosophy and Christians should avoid it. Notice that the Adventist Healthcare website considers yoga to be a safe form of exercise. Most people who try yoga for meditation find that it increases their flexibility and reduces stress. If you suffer from a long-term or chronic medical condition, you can often combine yoga and conventional medical treatment. Several studies have shown that yoga helps lower blood pressure, improve a person's sense of well-being, and can help people who have asthma learn to breathe more easily. A study determined that a 6-month yoga program improved fatigue in people with multiple sclerosis. The website points out that Hatha is the type of yoga being promoted. It says, Hatha is one of many types of yoga. While each type focuses on different aspects of yoga, all share the same goal, which is not only improved physical and mental health, but achievement of oneness with a higher being, the self, or some form of higher awareness. Anybody familiar with New Age terminology will realize that the Adventist Health website is promoting spiritualism. Just listen to one yoga teacher explain the purpose of yoga. Yoga means union. It is truly an awakening of the health and wholeness of each of us, becoming one in body, mind, heart, and spirit. We open ourselves to the oneness of our individual self with the greater universal self through the yoga practice. Hatha yoga, the physical practice of postures, actions, and breath work, specifically approaches this state of union through the body. Through the practice of physical poses, breath work, meditation, and relaxation, you'll develop more flexibility, strength, and inner peace. Awareness of your true self, the unlimited potential within, is awakened as the blocks to becoming that greater self are revealed through the practice. Gradually, you release those blocks and bring forth new possibilities in body and mind. Yoga is nothing more than a tool to promote Eastern mystical spiritualism. It's based on pantheism. The Adventist Healthcare website not only promotes yoga, but they also advertise classes to learn it. Learn yoga exercises to ease tense muscles, tone the internal organs, and improve flexibility of joints and ligaments. This was taught at both Washington and Shady Grove Adventist hospitals. Many other Adventist hospitals promote yoga, such as Adventist Bolingbrook Hospital, part of Adventist Midwest Health, Adventist Glen Oaks Hospital, also part of Adventist Midwest Health, San Joaquin Community Hospital, Sonora Regional Medical Center, Ukiah Valley Medical Center, Simi Valley Hospital. Yoga has even been taught to children at the Florida Hospital. Now, why would Seventh-day Adventist hospitals want to teach yoga? There are many other forms of exercises that are beneficial to health that are not steeped in New Age philosophy. Tai Chi and Qigong are other New Age practices that are being taught in our hospitals. According to the Adventist Healthcare website, Tai Chi and Qigong are traditional Chinese movement exercises. They're based on two ideas. Energy, called Qi or Qi, follows through the body along energy pathways called meridians. If the flow of Qi is blocked or unbalanced at any point on a pathway, it's thought that you may become ill. You do Tai Chi and Qigong to increase energy, Qi, the flow of energy, and through gentle, graceful, repeated movements. Nature, including the body, consists of opposing forces called yin and yang. Good health results when these forces are in balance. You do Tai Chi and Qigong movements in an attempt to help restore the body's balance of yin and yang. The philosophy of yin and yang teaches that there are always opposing forces. Up and down, light and dark, good and evil, always must exist together. But this philosophy is not according to the Word of God. It is the deception of the devil. In God there is no evil. The psalmist says, "The Lord is righteous in all his ways and holy in all his works." Of course, the Adventist Healthcare website says it does not condone or support all of the content covered in this site. The problem is, what parts of the information don't they support? Those visiting are hard-pressed to identify what is endorsed and what is not. To avoid confusion, wouldn't it be better not to have the information on their site at all? Despite what they may or may not endorse, Washington Adventist Hospital, which is part of the Adventist Healthcare Organization, advertised Tai Chi classes back in 2011. Also, Simi Valley Hospital advertises Tai Chi and Qigong on their website. In fact, Qigong is taught on Sabbath mornings. Another example where spiritualist New Age philosophy is appearing in our hospitals can be seen at St. Helena Hospital, not far from where Ellen White spent her last days. Here you will find the Martin O'Neill Cancer Center, which features a 13-foot tree called the Hope Tree. It's the first thing you see when you enter the center. According to the August 2010 issue of the Pacific Union Recorder, engraved on the tree are 48 symbols of hope from around the world, representing different cultures and faiths. Those symbols include the spiral, the phoenix, and the lotus, among others. In a brochure made available at an open house held in November 2009, the symbols are described as follows. Spiral. This ancient symbol found on every continent may have represented the life, death, rebirth cycle to our ancestors. Unfurling upward and outward, we are drawn to its motion. Like the spiral, we look up and outward, hoping there is more to our existence than we know. Phoenix. The phoenix rising from the ashes is a classic Greek symbol of rebirth. It reminds us that in embracing life, we can overcome death. Lotus, the symbol of enlightenment in many cultures. In the occult world, the spiral symbolizes the Kundalini force, also a type of yoga, and a rising in consciousness. The phoenix is a mythological bird associated with sun worship. It also symbolizes immortality, an occult alternative to Christian salvation. The lotus is a symbol of the mystic center, evolution, bisexuality, etc. The back cover of the brochure mentions the healing nature of the tree. This is nothing more than pagan idol worship. You know, things have changed dramatically since Ellen White wrote about the sanitarium work. For example, a press release from the Loma Linda University Medical Center mentioned the arrival of Santa Claus, a visit from professional baseball players and local superheroes to entertain children. In December 2012, the invitees included a hip-hop superstar and a professional boxer. The Florida hospital has partnered with Walt Disney to create the only hospital in history to carry the Walt Disney name. According to their website, the talented Imagineers of the Walt Disney Company have created an immersive, magical lobby that not only addresses the need to heal physically, but emotionally as well. Such a partnership endorses what the Disney Corporation stands for, including their movies, which Christians should not be watching because many of them promote spiritualist philosophies. For example, Aladdin, Bed Knobs and Broomsticks, Alice in Wonderland, Aliens of the Deep, Peter Pan, Angels of the Outfield, Beauty and the Beast, and a whole lot more. What has happened to our health system? God destroyed the Battle Creek Sanitarium for the apostasy that was accepted back then. Will he have to destroy our hospitals today because they no longer follow his counsel and have united with the world?
In our next episode,
Are books like Richard Foster's Celebration of Discipline good academic books? Is it possible that students will be able to discern all the wrong they learn from books like this? No wonder so many of our teachers, students, and church members are confused. Instead of teaching our students to be self-denying, humble Christians, competitive sports teach the opposite. It pains me to find that our schools see no problem promoting Shakespeare by performing his plays. Are fairy tales really innocent? Do they become acceptable if they promote Christian themes? Of course, the staff of these universities were quick to distance themselves from such abominations. If the students of our schools were taught according to God's blueprint, none of this would be happening.